Yes, Sister Liz. We have taught the Toddler Sunday School class together for quite some time now. I'm on hiatus, but pray for me that I get to go back, because my heart is definitely in that. But Sister Liz is going to kick it off. Aria, my daughter, is making sure that everybody has a sticker. Sticker is an important part of Sunday school for us. You keep your sticker by following the 3 rules that we have. Number 1, listen to the teacher. Number 2, we're not going to hurt anybody else. Number 3, we're going to have fun, right? But if you don't follow those rules, we're going to have to take your sticker. And if we take your sticker, you are not going to get a surprise at the end of class, okay? So I want everybody to behave in here, follow those 3 rules, and keep their sticker so that you can all have a surprise at the end of class, okay? And Sister Liz is going to kick it off for us.
Oh, Sister Aria is passing out stickers, so if you don't get one, you can just kind of raise your hand and then she'll come around and get it to you.
Make sure you get a sticker.
So we're going to go ahead and start. We're going to do things a little backwards today. So I wanted to start off talking about different types of lessons that you can bring. There are churches that are blessed to have multiple teachers in a classroom, but maybe you don't have that luxury. Maybe you are one of the only teachers. It's happened to Sister Lozano, it's happened to me, where you are the only one. So in this case, I really like to use puppets. So I don't know if you have any puppets at your church, if you can find them secondhand. If you need any, just text Philip. I'm sure he'd love to give you 1 or 2. But animals, I find, work really well with the little ones. People work well too. But puppets are really good because when you're teaching, having a back and forth banter is so engaging for the kids. They can sit, they can listen to a conversation. If I'm just saying, the other day, God created the world. And if I'm just talking to the kids, a lot of times you can lose their focus. But if you're bringing a fun puppet into it, if he has a silly voice, like this one is Mr. Quackers. And Mr. Quackers in our class is very nice and he's very silly. In super class, he's from New York and he's not as nice and friendly. But in our class, he's a lot of fun. So if I want to tell a story and I want the kids to be engaged and listening to my story, Mr. Quackers is a very old duck. He was actually the first one that God ever created. He's from the Garden of Eden. So he can go ahead and tell you that story. He can tell you about being created. He can tell you about living in the garden. And that puts a different perspective when we're telling stories. There's different ways that we can do it. Sister Lozano is so good at taking a really big concept like creation versus evolution and breaking that down into toddler-sized bites. So she'll talk more on that. She has a lot of other lessons, but I just wanted to highlight that there are different ways that you can tell a story, that you can tell a Bible story or a lesson, and if you're the only one there, using another puppet can give that back and forth that will keep the kids engaged. You don't want to talk for 15-20 minutes because you've lost your class, but a few minute conversation with you and your animal or your other little friend will work wonders in your class. I think she's going to come talk about some of hers.
All right. Yeah, so I think one of the challenges with toddler class that I never really thought about, because I've been in toddler class like for the entire time that I've been teaching Sunday school, and I was in toddler class when my kids were toddlers, and I now have like 15 to 20-year-old children, right? So breaking a big concept down like Sister Liz is talking about, creation versus evolution, and it's like, well, how do I do that for a 2-year-old, right? And how does that work? How can I convey that in a way? And I would pray a lot. God, help me to talk to them in a way that they can understand. So you'll notice that when we started out, we had 3 rules. And they were really simple rules, right? Listen to teacher, don't hurt anyone else, and have fun, right? Because once we start getting too many words, too many concepts, big list, 10 rules, 10 doesn't sound like a lot, but it's a lot when you're small, right? So we want to keep it super simple, really small and bite-sized. And there's a couple of things that I think about when I'm coming in to teach the toddler class. One is I want to know my audience, right? As much as possible, right? You're going to have visitors that come in, and that's like your wild card. But if your class skews, like at IOC, toddler class runs from age 2 to age 5. And so 2, barely turned 2, is a lot different than I'm almost 5. So if the class skews, and I find that it works this way, oftentimes the class will skew more heavily toward that young toddler age. And I need to think about, how do I talk to them in a way that they can understand? What can I do that's going to work out for them and keep them engaged, right? Versus what can I do when my class is skewing heavily more towards being 4 or 5 years old, that kind of a thing. And so, Aria, if you want to pass out the little snack. One of the lessons that we like to do in the toddler class is our snack mix. And this is one of the ways that we've taken creation versus evolution and condensed it down into a toddler, fun, and easy to understand format for a toddler. One thing, knowing my audience, right? They're young. We want to keep their hands busy. I do a lot less like standing up here with a book and stuff like that, and a lot more, what can we do with our hands? Because if we keep our hands busy, we are much more likely to be successful. Because if you don't keep their hands busy, they're going to keep their hands busy. But this one was particularly fun because we kind of get to eat our way through the days of creation, and it can be very simple, and it keeps their attention. I also like to make sure that I know my resources, right? So it's super cool when I have a bunch of helpers that can help me pass out each and every day of the creation story. But if I can't get through that very quickly, right, it's better if I just put it all together and have everything prepped at once. So knowing the resources that I have to be able to help me, say with crafts, right? I've had crafts that I planned out completely out of control because this age group needs a lot of support with crafts, right? Definitely never any scissors in there, but you know, even just putting simple things on a paper, or I have a traumatic sheep hand puppet story, like, you know, where I had put together this whole craft with the sheep hand puppet, and I thought, oh, they're gonna love it, it's gonna be great, but it was a lot of assembly required, and it was probably a ratio of like 8 to 1, and the kids did not wait patiently for me in line to help them glue on all their little cotton balls and with the eyes and mouth and all of that. So I might have been more successful in that setting with that particular lesson. It wasn't a bad lesson, but I just didn't execute it as well as I could have, knowing my audience and knowing my resources. I had an impatient audience, and I didn't have a lot of help. And a lot of times I know in Sunday school, it's like, man, especially in toddler Sunday school, the more hands, the better, right? Yeah. The more people in there to kind of help corral, the better. But I didn't have a lot of help, and I had kind of a number of tasks that needed to be done, and I didn't have enough help. So in retrospect, if I was going to do that lesson again in that same kind of setting, I probably would have glued on all my little cotton balls and got the peel and stick eyeballs, not the glue and stick ones, got the peel and stick eyeballs, and then we could have just had everybody put their eyeballs on, and everybody would have walked out with their little sheep like I envisioned, right? The other thing I really tried to do is really condense it down. So I have one hand, and this is about the number of words that I want my concept to be. Simple concept. I should have no more words in my simple concept than I have on my one hand. And as a matter of fact, I find it works best if you take away 2 fingers, 3 words, 3 to 5 words, right? So with creation, one of the things that we look at is God made everything. And we'll start off today, God made everything. And we repeat that a number of times throughout the lesson, right? So just to kind of run through this really quick so you can kind of see how we might do this in action. If you happen to have your snack mix, you're welcome to follow along with me and eat this. I'm going to do this in kind of fast format. And you can, and the nice thing about this one is you can kind of fast track it, and some kids will fast track it for you because there would be some kids who would have this mowed down and fresh in the carpet before I had even gotten through God made everything, right? But if you look at this, and there's little printouts in the back, and also I can't take pictures of this, I found it on Pinterest, but if you find your little Oreo, if you find your Oreo on day 1, God separated light from darkness, and so if you take that apart, you've got a light side and a dark side, and you can eat it. And you know what's so cool about that? Because we eat it, and it was good. So we had the Oreo, and it was good, right? Day number 2, God separated the, how do we put it? He separated the water from the top from the water on the bottom. So if you have this little frosted cereal in there, the water on the top, all those clouds, doesn't it look like a little cloud? And then we've got the bottom like the earth, the brown like the dirt. God separated all of that on the second day. So you can eat that, and sometimes this one is not as good as the Oreo, but it was good, right? And God saw that it was good. Okay? Sometimes I eat it right along with them, right? And even if they're mulling through that snack and they're on the fish or they find the M&Ms that are inside of there, right, they're still kind of engaged with that. This is fun. My hands are busy. I'm tasting stuff. I'm not just hearing and seeing things, more of my senses are engaged, right? The more senses we incorporate into this, the better, right? On day 3, God made green grass, the trees. So this one's a little bit harder because the M&Ms tend to kind of float to the bottom, but there's actually colored M&Ms in here. And so you find those green grass. There's the green grass, and God made that, and it was good. All right? And then we've got these little, that kind of looks like a tree trunk, huh? And God made that, and it was good. And we go through and we eat these things, and it's delicious. And we kind of get through that God made everything, and it was good. Right? Super, super simple concept. A little bit of words, not a whole lot going on there. And we repeat that all throughout the lesson. Day number 4, God created the sun and the moon. So we've got an orange M&M in here, a couple of orange M&Ms, you can eat those. And it was good. And God made the stars too. Who has a yellow M&M inside of their little packet? We've got yellow M&Ms, so we can eat those, and those are good. God made everything, and it was good. God made the birds. Who knows how to flap their wings like a bird, right? You know, sometimes we'll have there's apps that have animal sounds, so then we're hearing something. What kind of animal makes that sound? That's a bird. God made that. And it was good. Also, God made fish. Right? Who eats fish sticks for lunch? Or who wants to eat a goldfish cracker? So we eat that. And God made that, and it was good. You know, so we're eating this snack. The snack tastes good, but it was good, right? On day number 6, God made people. And sometimes I'll get down on the floor and I'll have a kid help me, and I'll say, God, He spoke everything else. He used His mouth to speak everything else into existence. But when He made Erica, He got down on the ground and He put His hands in the dirt and He made her and He breathed His breath in her and He made Erica. That's what makes people special. But God also made animals on that day. And people, one person named Adam, he got to name all the animals. Who has animals? What kind of animals did you get? And they can be anything because these animals, like, I'm not sure what they are. But, so He made everything. And on that 6th day, God made Adam and Eve, He made people, and He made animals, and it was good. And then on the 7th day, God's been working for a long time now. Who has marshmallows in their cup? That looks like a little pillow, huh? So on the 7th day, God rested. And that's kind of one of the ways that we break down a big concept into something kind of fun with, you know, creation versus evolution, right? That's a big concept, even for a 4-year-old. But this usually can appeal from 2 to 5 years old, right? We're looking to engage all of their senses, right? Especially keep those hands busy. We keep things moving, right? as much as possible. So that's one that we've done. I kind of wanted to talk through too. Instead of just talking about how we do it, I wanted to show you some that we have done. So being fishers of men, right? That's another really cool one, but it's kind of a big concept. Witnessing. What 2-year-old understands witnessing, right? So with that one, what we've done is we're going to tell people about Jesus. We're going to talk about Jesus. And how can we do that, right? And why do we call that being fishers of men? So I love pipe cleaners because pipe cleaners can be anything you want them to be, and they're cheap. So, and they typically are not going to hurt anybody. But we've made these little pipe cleaner fish, and we give them each their own little fishing hook. And while we're fishing, we talk about how can we talk to people about Jesus. We can tell people about Jesus, right? Jesus loves them. We can invite people to church and say, hey, you should come to my church. You want to come visit me at church? And we can even be kind to other people. We talk about examples of how you can do that. Even when maybe somebody new comes to church, can you go shake their hand and be kind to them, Erica? That's helping them to know that Jesus loves them. And that's how you can bring people into church. Just like if you were fishing and you want to catch that fish, you're going to put your hook down there and you're going to catch your little fish. And you're going to go out there and you're going to talk to people about Jesus by being kind to them, by telling them about Jesus, by inviting them to church, and when they come to church, by being really nice to them, right? And you notice, like, we're not using super big words. We're using smaller words, some simple concepts, and again, what we're saying is repeated throughout the lesson again and again and again. We're talking to people about Jesus. We're telling people about Jesus. We're not telling them that we're witnessing. We're not asking for home Bible studies, right, at 4 years old, right? We're talking to people about Jesus. I know sometimes at our church, there's kind of a larger curriculum list or lesson list. And there have been times where Sister Liz and I have looked at that and we're like, okay, this is a really big concept. Like, what are we going to do with that? One of the things, and I think Sister Liz really helped me learn this because I'm very like, these are the rules, right? Like, this is what I'm supposed to do. And I would feel tied into that. But I couldn't figure it out. I wasn't inspired. I wasn't excited about it. And I would still try to make it happen. And when Sister Liz came in the class, she was like, Sister Lozano, I just cannot get anything on this. Can we do something else? And I'm like, brilliant. Yes, absolutely. Like sometimes I don't grasp the simple things, right? So if you're coming up against something like our experience is that do something you're excited about. Something that's like, yeah, this is fun. This is really cool. You know, if you're excited about it, the kids are more likely to be excited about it, right? And there are some lessons, some things, like, I don't know that we've ever taught Judas Iscariot in the toddler class. You know, Cain and Abel is another one where you can teach that, talking about taking care of your brother and taking care of your friends, but I might leave some of the rest of that out because it's a little bit too big for little people to understand. And I definitely don't want anybody to go home and say, we talked about killing your brother in Sunday school, you know, because that's where they're, what you're talking about. Another one that we've done that is kind of like one that I struggled with was Jacob and Esau. There's a lot to that story, and like, especially if your class is on the younger side, it's like, well, how do I keep your hands busy while we're talking about Jacob and Esau? But one of the ways, and this one here, you can take, and oftentimes you're taking a portion of that story. You may not be able to cover everything. So you're looking for that simple concept and working to build your lesson around that, right? And as much as possible, we're keeping those hands busy. Like, the sense of touch, I think, is probably the most important. When I keep the hands busy, we do better. And this is one where you can kind of take it one way or another. Jacob can be both the hero and the villain, kind of, in depending on how you want to take it. Jacob was a liar, and we shouldn't lie, right? That's a sin. But God did forgive him. So if you kind of need to maybe go over sin and forgiveness and repentance, that might be one way you could spin it. What I've done with this is Jacob loved God. And that was my concept. Jacob loved God. And Jacob was smooth. And so his skin kind of felt smooth, and we'll kind of pass it around, and I'll have a couple of different pieces, right? Because we don't have patience. I don't want to wait, I can't be number 10 in line, right? So we'll have a couple of different things that we're passing around so that, you're getting to feel or see that thing pretty quickly. But Esau was hairy. His skin might have felt kind of like this. I mean, if you think about his mom covered him in goat skin, he must have been pretty woolly. So we'll talk about that. Oh, does your arm feel like that? Like he's really hairy, right? And we'll talk about that. And Esau didn't love God the way Jacob did. He didn't think that God was as important as Jacob did. And so do you know what he did? Because he didn't love God the same way that Jacob did, he didn't care about the blessing of God, and he sold his blessing. I was in birthright because even as an adult, I'm still working to understand exactly what a birthright was. So I talk about God's blessing. He sold that for a bowl of beans. And they have there's this 15 bean soup or whatever. And you do need to be careful. If you have somebody who likes to put things in their nose or stuff like that, nobody really has eaten these. But give them a little plate of the beans. I'll say, oh, can you put all the white little beans together? Can you sort those all out? Younger kids really like doing fine motor activities, and it also forces them to concentrate. So you're kind of giving them something to focus on, to do with their hands, and those little pincher skills, or some of that with the fish, that fine motor skills, keeping our hand steady while we're picking something up. It kind of takes some of that energy that we've got and that curiosity that we've got, and we're honing it in. And we're keeping those hands busy, and we're giving them something to do. I would not do this unless you have a good vacuum. There probably are still beans inside of the classroom now. So those are just a couple of lessons that we've been able to take those big concepts, right? Being witnesses, Bible studies, creation versus evolution, Jacob and Esau, and kind of condense that down into a toddler bites. Are there any questions? Anything you guys wonder about?
When you have bus kids that never come to church, how do you handle kids when we have a couple of kids that like to kick? How do you handle that kind of discipline? Not discipline, but redirect them?
So I think that's a really good point, right? The redirection, that's part of the sticker. And Sister Liz has picked up on something. When I first started doing the stickers for behavior in class, as kind of a way to keep things under control, the sticker itself with the kids I had was devastating. They're losing their sticker, right? What we have done is there's a candy at the end.
Okay, but so that's what the sticker's all about?
Yeah. And so then too, what I was saying, Eric, I'm so sorry. You remember our 3 rules, right? You listen to teacher, you don't hurt other people. And when you hit Sister Sabrina, you really hurt her. I'm going to have to take your sticker. And I'll take your sticker and I'll wear it. And I'll say, hey, Erica, I really want to share my stacks with you. I really want to share my stuff with you. So if you can behave for the rest of class and stop hitting Sister Sabrina, I will give you your sticker back. So we try to do that. But I will tell you, there's been a twist because we do have a bus ministry and they're getting loaded up on candy before they get there. So the candy was not as effective, but Sister Liz has a genius idea how to control that.
Yes, so we were actually just talking about this a few weeks ago, where it used to be you take their sticker, they were devastated, they would do anything to get it back. And then we had to start giving the incentive of the candy, like, okay, well, if you're good after, keep your sticker throughout class, you get the candy at the end. That was working really well for a long time. But recently, on bus, they get, with ours anyway, they come, they get candy, they get Sunday school dollars, they get anything that they want, really, on it. So our one piece of candy after class, they don't really seem to care about anymore. If you don't have that problem, then use the candy. But what I have found very recently is that we do Sunday school dollars. So they look like this. And I tell them, if you keep your sticker, if you're listening to teacher, you're obeying, and I tell them in the beginning of class, are your listening ears on today? If not, take them out of your pocket. And so many kids have them in their pocket. They're not on when they come to class. So they'll take them out of their pocket, they'll put their listening ears on, say, so if you're listening to your teacher today, if you're obeying the rules, if you're not, hitting other people, then at the end of class, you're going to get $1. And they get so excited for these dollars. You can print them. You can print them on colored paper. And they are so excited about these dollars. This has started to really help with our bus kids where they're like, I don't care about a piece of candy, but you're going to give me $1. Okay, I care about the $1 now. So what we do, if they're behaving, they earn their $1, and then this is Five Below has a dollar section now, so go check out your Five Below. But there's little candies from Dollar Tree. There's little, sensory balls and bubbles and these tubes that are very annoying, but they're not your kids, so just send them home with them anyway. And this is our new incentive. If you are behaving, you're keeping your hands to yourself, we have our listening ears on, you're going to earn your $1 and you can spend your $1. And what we also do, Sister Lozano taught me this, sometimes they're so young that they do kind of need that instant gratification.
Okay.
So we're starting off class, I'm so excited that you're here today, and maybe there's a lot of energy in your classroom. Maybe you can start off with a song, get some of that energy out. And you're participating in the song, so let me give you a fruit snack. Let me give you a goldfish. And that immediate, I'm not going to call it a prize, reward for behaving and for participating goes a long way. And then you can say, after the song is over, or when you're transitioning from playing with Legos to now you have to sit down and listen to a lesson and they don't want to do that, you can say, okay, we're going to make it a race, we're going to clean up, let's see if we can do it in 2 minutes. That 2 minutes can last as long as you want it to last. They don't know time. So we're going to clean this up in 2 minutes. They get it cleaned up. Oh, good job, I'm so proud of you. Here, you get a goldfish, you get a goldfish. If you sit down. Or come this way, everybody raise your hands to the sky, and then touch your toes, and then touch your ears, and everybody sit down. So if you make that a game, they'll sit. They will all sit down. But yeah, those little rewards throughout class, it can be a fruit snack, it can be a goldfish, it can be an M&M. Those will help keep your class going until the end when they get their $1.
One of the things that I would add too, that this doesn't always work, but if there's a kid that's like particularly acts up in class, a lot of times, especially when it's a kid I don't know their background, they may not know how to get positive attention. They may only get negative attention, and I have come across that situation. So that's the kid that I'm like, hey, do you want to help me take out the trash? Can you help me do this?
Set up a snack.
Yeah.
Helping to set up the snack after.
That's a special activity, but it does help them. What I want them to walk away with is, hey, you don't have to be bad to get my attention. There's a lot of really cool things you can do, a lot of really fun ways that you can get positive attention without having to misbehave to get there.
Any other questions? Those are really good questions.
What do you do with the really shy, timid, screaming ones that just want you to always hold them?
Do you happen to have other teachers as help in the classroom?
Yes.
Okay, if you have enough hands, and if your church is okay with holding them, we give them that like extra, because what we've noticed is if you give it to them, and maybe it's a few weeks, then they're able to relax, and then they're able to like transition into class the way we normally see. Sometimes it's just a few weeks of them reading that, and then they're okay. So it really depends on the kids.
Yeah, I kind of try to play that one by ear, and I've had some, like, we had a little girl come and, like, sit under the table for a long time. She wasn't hurting anybody, she wasn't bothering anybody, and I let her be. And come to find out, actually, and this is a thing, too, they have limited communication skills, right? They have a really immature way of dealing with it, but this little girl had lost her grandpa and was really withdrawing, and so, you know, I didn't push her out of that. And I've had kids that are super, super shy. It's like, well, everybody's over here sitting on the rug, you know, and you're over here, you know, and I go, hey, do you want to come sit with us? Sometimes they just need that invitation. And one of them looked at me and said, there's too many people over there. And I was like, you know what? As an adult, sometimes I feel like that. So I try not to push as long as they're not being a distraction or hurting anybody else. Like Sister Liz said, sometimes we do carry them. Now, on rare occasion, I have had some who, they don't get past that. And so you kind of have to like, hey, okay, so for now, how about you hold on to, you know, the pocket of my dress, you know, or something like that. So, you know, after a couple of weeks, usually they get comfortable, they know the routine and they're okay. But if it lasts longer than that, I would start kind of trying to slowly like, okay, I'm going to put you down for right now, right next to me, and then I'm going to pick you up, and letting them know like, okay, I'm going to put you down while we sing songs, and then I'm going to pick you up, okay? And kind of trying to like slowly, you know, but there's been some of them that like, they're pretty much right by your side the whole time. And the whole time that they are, you know, for years maybe. I hope that helps.
Any advice for those kids who don't want to come to Sunday school and who always cry? We never try to force them in there, but are there any ideas or things to get them to feel comfortable, you know, so they're not yeah. Is it okay to force them sometimes?
That is one of the hardest things I think about Toddlers Sunday School. There's a little bit on this in that handout. We kind of put together some nuts and bolts. There's so much. Like I was telling you, I think our challenge is the time constraint, right? Toddler drop-off is probably the time that is the most difficult. There's a couple of things, right? Sister Liz mentioned blocks. So we're always trying to play for like the first 10, 15 minutes of the class. There's a couple of reasons for that. If there's something that looks kind of cool and fun in there, I'm more likely to kind of want to venture in and see what's going on. Are you playing with Play-Doh? Do you have a rice sensory bin? Are you playing with blocks? You know, doing something that looks kind of cool and fun. The other thing is that we found, like, when I first started, I would have that hard start. I'm starting at 10 a.m. Well, guess how many kids come in late? And guess how many kids come in late and crying? And then now, because one came in crying, everybody else is crying, and we're done. We're done. So I try to just, you know, give that like a grace period right there, 10, 15 minutes, where, you know, you have an easy activity to come into, distract everybody else, and if, you know, another child is coming in crying, oh, let's play with these blocks. What are you making with your Play-Doh, right? Then you start looking like, they're scared, I'll be scared too. The other thing that I really encourage is for the parents to say goodbye. A lot of times we have they're going to sneak out, but guess what? The next time they come, mom is not out of their sight. And they're going to cry even more. So I would rather establish that, hey, you know, mom is going to say goodbye. We'll see you in a little bit. And I'll tell them, like, hey, we're going to play. And we keep a same routine throughout the class. We're going to do these things. We're going to have a really cool snack. Do you like to eat goldfish crackers? That's cool because that's what we're going to have. Do you like candy? You know, that kind of a thing. So kind of trying to tell them what's coming. And then mom is going to come and get you. You know, if they can understand that, right? Sometimes they're too little, they don't understand that. This all depends. There's sometimes where they're terrified. And I don't make them. But I'll try like, hey, you know what? Hey, do you want to pick something out of our special box? Do you want to take the coloring sheet home? You know, and then I tell parents as much as possible, do not be discouraged, bring them back again. I don't care if they cry and scream and cling on to you the next 25 times. Because eventually, like, what is going on there? You know? And it's positive. They've walked away with something, I'm going to carry out of this, right? So usually that works out really well. If the parent is comfortable, right? I have a couple minutes. She's my timekeeping. If the parent is comfortable, sometimes we do the peel and remove method, and I bring them in and try to show them stuff. A lot of times, once the parent is gone and they're distracted, they have a great time. They're doing fine. If that's the case, great. I don't care if you cry every time. We will peel you off. I have ones like that. I have kids like that, right? So peel them off, let them have fun. They're doing great, they stay. No big deal. But I never made a kid stay if they just, after the first few minutes, if this was not working out, then I would take them back. And that's kind of how we handled it.
We're over on time, so sorry, but thank you.
Now, if you met everybody in here was great, give yourself a hand. And since you all, nobody lost their sticker today, so you can see Aria, and you're more than welcome to grab a piece of candy.